Hello, and welcome to another trigger tutorial. This one is going to cover my delegate conditions and effects. This allows you to turn another trigger into a trigger effect or condition that can be used in a different trigger and can be used multiple times. This allows you to essentially create new triggers and conditions on the fly for your scenario, which will make maintenance easier and hopefully save you lots of time. Now, some of the concepts I'm going to discuss have already been covered with the globals video, so I highly recommend that you check that out first. However, with that out of the way, let's have a look at some things we can do with it. The first example here is I've got an AnyByte which is going to move to this mat. Once it does so, it's going to send a chat and play a sound. So this is going to be in two parts. We've first got the thing we're going to delegate to. So in this case, I've called the trigger red chat sound. Delegates do not need to have activation on, so I usually have that turned off. No conditions needed. Let's go to the effects. Now the effects, you need to first have at the very top the effect called Delegate Effects. This tells the game that this trigger is going to be used for the delegate functionality, and we need to have a unique name which is going to represent what we're going to call from somewhere else to activate it. I usually give this the same name as the trigger name, just for clarity. Secondly, we have a parameters field, and this allows you to receive pieces of information provided from another location. So here I'm going to receive a message which I've declared with the variable m and with a default value of empty. If you want multiple pieces of information, you should put a comma separating it and put the additional types. So here is an example. I've added a count variable. However, in our case, we don't need that, so I'm just going to take it out again, because it was just an example. Now, once you've declared your delegate effects, now you can put the effects you actually want to happen. So in this case, I've got a send chat, which is going to be read using the color codes, and then I've got the color end tag, and in between I want to put the message that is provided. We declared this with the variable above called string m is empty string. Now, because this is text, we need to put surrounding quotes to break out of the string and join our variable in there. So the end result will be the color tag, whatever text, and then close the color tag. Secondly, we're going to play a sound of sentinel birth, which doesn't have any special variables or anything going on. Let's give this a run. So we're going to select the AnyByte and let's move him to the mat. And there we go. We have a message in red and a sound. As well as effects, you can also delegate conditions. This is not something I do that often, but I've still provided it anyway, and it is slightly more complicated to do. So we're going to have a second delegate, but this time it's going to be a delegate condition. So that's what I've just called it, the Osiris condition. Again, we don't want it active, and instead of delegate effects, we're going to go into the conditions and put delegate conditions. Here I haven't put any parameters because there's no extra information I need to pass. And then we're going to have a couple of conditions. So we're going to have the is dead, which I'm going to put on the AnyByte, so the AnyByte has to be dead. And we're going to check the chat contains Osiris. Note that we cannot use this system for timers. Unfortunately, just due to the way the game works, the timer condition does not work properly with the delegate system, so this can't be used for timer. Now, the final thing is, if using conditions, is you must go to the effects and insert the delegate conditions return. If you do not do this, this will not work. Here, put the same name as the delegate conditions. This is just an internal thing to allow the trigger to be used as a condition. Then we've got the trigger that actually uses it. So here we've got a single trigger on active. We've got a single condition, which we're going to use as the Osiris condition. And then as a result, if we do, we can army deploy. Let's give this a run. So typing Osiris will not be enough. The Anibite also needs to be dead. So as you can see, when the Anibite died and we got the chat, we get an Osiris. A final use is it can also be used with Y-search. Now, one of the problems with Y-search generally is that you have to put all of your effects in the same search trigger. However, you can use Delegate to change that and spread your effects across multiple triggers. You can also use it to try and save a bit of time where you want the same set of effects being applied to multiple objects. So I've got an effect called Big Projectile, which again is going to be a delegate, so again, don't put active. And at the top, if you're going to use it, put the effect Y Delegate Handler. What this does is it allows this trigger to act as a delegate for Y triggers. Again, put a unique name. So here I've put the same name as the trigger, just to make it easier to find. And then I'm going to change the projectile scale to be 2 all around, and it's going to change to the implode sphere. Now let's go to the search trigger where I've used it. So I've got a standard search, which is going to be looping, active, and run immediately with no conditions. And here I'm going to check if it's arrow flaming. If it is, I want us to apply the big projectile functionality and end. And let's say I also want it to apply for axes. I can simply delegate again with the same delegate trigger. So as you can see, I'm using the delegate big projectile to apply the effects to both the arrow flaming and the axe. I could continue doing this for as many projectiles as I want, or even add additional effects here, which will apply to all of them. So as you can see, this saves a lot of typing and trigger creation. Let's give this a run so we can see what happens. So remove these units. And now we're going to have massive implode spheres that can be fired. And when the axemen throw, they will also create it. One final note, and this is really important. Similar to the globals, there is a reliance on the internal ordering of the triggers. Delegates must exist in the game before any triggers that are using them are. So example being here that the red chat sound delegate must exist before the trigger chat, which was the Anibite being in the area. If that is not the case, and I created the trigger chat and then decided later I wanted a delegate, then they'll be in the wrong order internally. We can fix this by taking the trigger that's using the delegate, clicking copy on the trigger, delete the original, and rename the copy back. This will push the trigger to the bottom of the list internally and make it work. If you do not do this, your triggers will break and will not run. This is an unfortunate problem which I don't know of a general solution, and this is the best I've found so far. However, if you're careful, this can be used to save lots of time with your triggers and hopefully allow you to create some more great maps. Stick around for more trigger tutorials, and have a great day.